Hey, so Tristan, this video is for you, but anyone else watching it can maybe learn a thing or two if they're just starting out in the game. So I've opened up vehicle design mode, the vanilla option, and we always get this raft and that little life thingy there which allows you to respawn. Every time you die, that's the thing that allows you to come back. It doesn't have to be there. Neither does this raft, although this raft that you get is a good place to start for your very first, few attempts. So I'll take it from the top. What do we do? Well, right now we're a robot and we can fall off. You don't get hurt or anything, so don't worry. That's a bit of lead underneath, by the way. That gives this raft a bit of weight and stops it from tipping over the whole time. We'll get more back to that later. But if you hold spacebar, you can jump back up on this thing, and jump up and down, go crazy. You'll see a lot of options in my inventory. You can get them as you play the game more and more and unlock stuff. They're not all that important, not all of them. Anyway, so yeah, let's work on this raft. Let's use the starting thing. Or even better, I could do it another way. How do you start a new thing from scratch? Because that's probably something you want to know. So let's delete this raft. So I'm going to go escape, destroy all vehicles. Yeah. Okay, you can see it's gone, right? And I'm floating in the air because it freezes you until you press one of your direction buttons or jump. Then you'll fall down into the ocean. But instead I'm going to press B for build. And you see we've got this block and it's going down into the water. We don't want that. I don't want to build underwater or down here. So I press caps lock. That takes it back up into the air and it freezes the block for you. And you can work at it. You don't have to worry about your body up there. Yeah, while you're in build mode, you're over here. So there's two ways you can build in this game, with using the mouse to move around or using the keyboard to move. The keyboard is the old way and it's actually a little difficult and strange at first, since we're all used to using the mouse to move and look and click. But there are advantages to using, and I'll get back to that as well. Let's start by choosing some blocks. I'll press E and open up my block list. At the top are blocks. These are the buildy blocks. The main stuff, not machines or anything. These are just the basic building blocks that you build most of your ship out of, the hull and everything. So we're going to go to wood. We'll choose wood beam. And you can see it's facing this way. So I can't really get it on here. It keeps going blue. So what I do is I hold in tab. And this comes up to show you can now rotate your block while holding in tab, and I tap W, A, S or D and I can do this. So I'm going to do that and I let go of tab. Now it's a lot easier to place it, so I do that and I do a few of them. Let's make a little raft. This is just going to be for making a raft. Obviously there's a lot of numbers and things around the screen that you can see on the borders, or a lot of information. You don't have to worry about that all right now either. We'll get back to that too. Now, one trick to save you a lot of time in building is turning on what we call mirror mode. And this is mirror mode. By the way, if you press B by mistake, alright, now your thing's falling into the water. Oops. Just press tab. Let's say you move as well by mistake and you're like, oh no, now I'm falling in the water, what do I do? All you do is you just press tab, go into free camera mode. See, there's our body falling down there, but we're in camera mode now. Go look at the thing you were building. The reason we keep moving is the camera goes down as we move down. Eventually when we hit the ground, there we go, we've hit the ground, good. Now we go to the thing we want and we press B. And we press caps lock to freeze and lift, and we're back to where we were. No sweat. So don't panic if you do something wrong like that. Anyway, so now I'm going to teach you mirror mode. Go to the center of your construction. Obviously this is our center since we haven't done anything else yet. And while looking at the center, press N for nanny. There you go. Now, you can't see any real difference there, but if you look on the left hand side of the screen, you'll see it says question mark N for mirror has popped out. That means mirror mode is on. So when I build on the one side, it appears on the other. See that? Click on the one side, and a block appears on the other. So that's very handy for getting your ship out a bit quicker. We're going to make a simple box thing right now. Let's make a box thing. So we'll make it a little wide so it doesn't easily tip over. There we go. And there's a few other tricks also I'll teach you as well, like filling up a whole area so you don't have to click every single block if it's a big area you have to cover. There's ways to tell the game to actually fill those areas with the blocks you were planning on clicking anyway. It just saves you a lot of time. So I'm going to choose the little block because there's not enough space here for the long one. And we'll do the same at the back. By the way, if I've got, let's say, a little block selected and I don't want to keep opening up the menu the whole time to choose a new block, press E, what you could do is, let's say you want to use these long blocks, press R while looking at them, and now you're holding that block. It's very handy then. So I'm holding the long block now, but now I want the little block again, and I know I used some over there, so I look there and I press R and I've got the little block again. It doesn't matter if this one is sideways or anything. The only thing that really changes with a wooden block when you change the direction is what it looks like. Like you can see this one's flowing that way. This looks a little weird now that I've put them the wrong way. So I could just do this to make it look better. Oops, I went and deleted the one side, so mirror mode deleted the other side and took the big one away. So remember, mirror mode also works for deleting. It's a quick way to delete. Let's say you want to get rid of this block and that block. Boom, they're both gone. That's mirror mode. Don't forget to turn it on when you need it, and definitely don't forget to turn it off when you don't want it. Anyway, because there's no undo button in this game. You can save your stuff, escape, save, we'll call this thing test boat. We go save, test boat, resume game. Alright, so we've got a box, and that's pretty much what you want your first little dinghy to look like, just to get an idea. Now this dinghy is not going anywhere. If I press B and I let it fall in the water, it just sits there, right? It's got no engine or anything. Now, if this wasn't high enough, it would still float because wood likes to float. It's naturally buoyant because it's not a very dense material. It's got pockets of air, unlike, say, a solid block of steel. So it's not easy to sink a wooden ship. It usually just floats there till it's completely destroyed, or sinks because it's got metal stuff attached to it, or it just eventually rots and becomes waterclogged and sinks. That also does the trick. But anyway, this is not going to sink right now. If it was out of metal and the walls weren't high enough to keep the water from splashing in, it would sink. But wood is a good starting point. Now, one big thing to remember as well is this game doesn't always make it immediately clear to new players where the front and back is. So if you build your ship the wrong way around, you've actually built it the wrong way around. Then you can't do anything about that, because the game has a way of seeing things as front and back. And the way you tell, if in case you ever forget where's the front and back meant to be, when you press B mode, these lights appear, these lines. Where they cross is the front. So you can tell we're working on the front now. That's the back over there where it's just a square. This is the front where they meet. Anyway, I've turned off mirror mode, and let's actually make this thing movable, just to give you an understanding of how things move. E, and I'm going to go to water, which is the next one. Rudder. So this lets our boat turn. And you want it underwater, so you definitely don't want it, say, like that, upside down and above the water. You want it on the edge, like that. Now we'll be using that with a steering wheel. I'm not going to show you how to make your ship control itself yet, that's for later. Today is making a ship you can sit in and control yourself. So we've got our rudder, but that's still not good enough. We've got no steering wheel, no engine, and no propellers, and more importantly, no chair for you to sit on. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go E, propellers. Let's choose some small ones. We could turn on, whoops, press B instead of N for mirror, so we went out of build mode, now we're back in. In mirror mode, I'll give us, say, 4 propellers, little ones. E, we don't really need an air pump right now since we have an open space here. Air pump won't really work. It's more for enclosed areas, which you'll have on big ships, obviously, where there's parts hidden underwater. And the way the game works is if you don't have an air pump, it assumes that the water actually gets in for stuff that's underwater, submerged. So adding air pumps lets your metal ships float. Without these, all the metal ships in the game will probably sink. So you always want to use air pumps once you start making enclosed ships, but we don't need one right now. We don't need a paddle for a paddle boat, that's a different type of boat. We don't need hydrofoils, which is what you use for usually balancing submarines underwater and for helping them ascend and descend. You can also use them on ships as a trick for kind of getting them to stay stable, but we don't need any of this stuff right now. We're just going to work with propellers and rudders. But now we need a chair and a wheel. So we go to control, and we go to vehicle control, and we go to ship's wheel. So we put it down. Let's put it down here. And even though it's on mirror mode, it didn't make another wheel because I placed it right in the middle, so there's no mirror side to do it. If I had put it there, you would get two wheels. But if you do it on the line, there's no mirroring, obviously, because it's on the center. Now we want a chair, so we go X, still in the control area, and you can see here it says chair. So we put it about 3 or 4 blocks away. And even though your body, your robot guy, is right at the bottom of the ocean right now, if you go to the chair and you tap Q while looking at a Q for Queen, you will pop into it. Ta-da! We're now sitting in the chair. You'll notice in the top left-hand side of the screen, we've now got controls, H and K. It says we can turn left and right. The reason we can't go forward and back, and the reason it's got a picture of a engine there, is that we have no engine. It's telling us you can't go forward, this isn't a sailboat, we're not using air, we need power. So we're going to give this an engine now, teach you a little bit about engines. E, we go to first processed resources because we need gas, and you can see it says fuel storage tank. So we click that and it gives us a few different sizes to choose from. The red one is a bit tricky because you can't easily stack other stuff onto it, but all the grey ones can have other stuff put on them, so I pretty much use the grey ones only. But let's take the smallest one, the 1x1. It gives us 1000 liters of gas. If you look on the bottom right of the screen, we've got, it says EXP for that experience, don't worry about that one right now. And above that you've got the engine icon, it says 00, that means we don't have an engine running yet. The next thing with the little tank of gas is our gas, it says we've got 1000. The next icon up that looks like a bunch of shotgun shells is the ammunition, we have no ammunition. And the last one is power. I think that's power, or electrical power for electrical engines, so we're not going to worry about that lightning bolt icon right now. So let's give ourselves some ordinary energy from ordinary fuel combustion engine. Over here, fuel engines. And there's a lot of options. And the reason there's a lot of options is one of the big tricks of this game is building an efficient engine. Not all engines are the same depending on how you build them. You can basically make engines that are so powerful but don't have very good ways to get rid of the heat. So the engines overheat and they shut down easily, and they guzzle all your petrol very quickly. So there's tricks to making a good engine that doesn't use too much fuel too quickly, so your ship can last for the whole battle and do its thing without running out of gas. And we'll come back to that another time as well. I'll make you a very simple one today that should run alright. There's two basic engine types. There's injectors and carburetors. Now, injectors provide a lot more power, but they suck up a lot of fuel, so we're going to go with carburetors. What do we start with? Well, we start with the fuel engine generator, right? The big main part. There we go. All the other pieces we're going to kind of attach out of this thing down the line. So the next thing up is a crankshaft, just below. This is basically what allows everything in the rest of your engine to connect. So we've got a crankshaft, E again. We only need one. We're making a very small engine. Cylinder. So put the cylinder down. Now the cylinder is attached to the crankshafts in any direction you want. Forward, sideways, top. That all works. You can't put it like that with its side sticking to the side of the crankshaft. It has to be the bottom of the cylinder. See, that's the right way up, and only the bottom part that's on the wood is the part that connects to anything. So like that, like that, like that, and like that. So let's put it on top. Bam. You could do this too. Bam. You could have two, but let's work with just one for now. You'll see in the bottom right we've now got 10 units of power. That's not a heck of a lot. I don't think it'll be even enough to make these propellers go. So let's go E and add some carburetors. This is where the real power comes in. Now the carburetors you attach to your cylinders. You'll see our power has grown from 10 to 100. That's a big difference. Now we've got some real power. Now I could show you some other tricks for making your carburetor cooler. There's a lot of tricks here, but for now I would say play with carburetors, and the only thing you want to use if you do want to make it a little more fuel efficient is this thing called a supercharger, which you slap onto the carburetor. There you go. And if I go over the carburetor, you see it says connected to one supercharger, and that supercharger provides a bit more air to the carburetor. It doesn't give you more power, it just gives more air, and that allows it to stay cooler. And the cooler your engine is, the more efficient it is, and the less gas it uses, and the less chance it has of overheating. So supercharger attached to a carburetor is a good idea. At least one. It makes a world of difference. But there you have it. We have an engine, and you'll notice if I press B to go out of build mode, and I press tab to switch back to robot mode, I'm in my chair, and in the bottom right we have 100 units of power, and in the top left of the screen we now have the U and the J button showing for forwards and backwards. We can now move. You'll see it says TG as well. That's if you want your ship to come to a complete stop. You tap T and then G very quickly, and it sets your engines to 0. But we can't really see anything in this ship. The walls are a bit high for our eyes. So let's press tab, go into camera mode. Now the camera will follow our robot, so if we start driving, the camera's going to move with it, which is quite cool. So let's press U and hold in U. We're going. You can see the propellers are actually at slightly under strength, because sometimes they're dipping out of the water, which means they lose power and we slow down a bit. But who cares? We're going forward right now, and that's awesome. Our little dinghy is moving. You can see above our petrol and engine information, there's some other information like our speed, that red bar that keeps growing and getting smaller and bigger and smaller and bigger. That's our speed changing every time our propellers jump out the water and we slow down a bit. But yeah, you can see we're going about 7 meters a second, somewhere around there. And we're heading away. Now, this is a ship you need to control. It needs you to be here, because we haven't put in any blocks that allow the ship to control itself. We'll do that another time, and I'll show you that another time. But with this information, you can already start going crazy and building some stuff that you have to drive, but that's okay. At least it'll teach you a lot about the building, just getting used to it and messing around. I did want to talk a bit about keyboard building. Earlier on I said there's 2 ways of building: keyboard and mouse. I'm going to quickly show you why some people would use keyboard over the mouse in some situations. If I press B, and let me save this vehicle so I can mess it up without worrying. I can always reload it by going load vehicle. Then you just go into your profile name, which I call myself Firelord here. So there's all my stuff. you'll see whatever your name is you gave yourself and all your saved stuff in there. Anyway, so I've gone into build mode, right? And let's choose a wooden block. So here's a wooden block in ordinary build mode. Now, if I put this wooden block where I want to put it, like let's say I wanted to put a whole row of little single blocks on top here, from this end all the way to the end, right? The mouse is actually pretty slow for stuff like this, and you can end up misclicking and putting a block in some random place. This is where the keyboard comes in handy, keyboard building for long stretches of building. You put your mouse where you want to go, alright? I want to build down there. I'll even put it in mirror mode. Oh, wrong mirror mode. It shouldn't be flat like this. It should be standing upright like that. There we go. Now I put the block here and I press F3. Now I'm in keyboard mode. When I move my mouse, my block doesn't move, so I don't have to worry about flying off where I want it to build. It's the keyboard that now makes your block move. WASD, like that. So now clicking is still what you use to build with, but it's the keyboard that moves. But look what happens now when I click, and I'm not moving or touching my keyboard. This is with the mouse only. You see how easy it was to build that line of blocks. That's where keyboard mode comes in handy, for doing something quickly like that. I'm going to press F3, go back into ordinary build mode, press B, I'm in the middle of nowhere, press tab, go back to robot mode, press tab again, out of robot mode into camera mode. Yay! So there we go. And if we press V, you can look at some information here about your ship. That's how much wood it costs, 4,200, 640 metal, 225 fuel, 175 scrap, 0 crystal, RP, don't actually remember what that stands for, the name of your boat, the dimensions, length 26 meters, 10 meters wide, 5 high. How many blocks did we use? 159. And da 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 da. Speaking of which, one last thing before I sign off here. Whenever you can, always use a bigger block over a smaller one. For example, if you're going to build building the hull of your ship, and that's going to be a long thing, do not use the little guys when you can use a big one instead. The less blocks you have, the faster the game runs. Every block adds a new calculation to the computer that it has to worry about. That means if you use bigger blocks instead to do what I just did, you'll see we only needed about 6 or 7 of these. But when we used the small blocks, we needed almost 40 or 50 just to get from there to there. So that's the way the game works with calculating blocks, and what really slows down your game. So I remember my very first ship was made out of a bazillion of these little guys, and my computer hated the ship. It didn't run very well. So use the big guys whenever you can, and save the small ones for filling up gaps or creating, patterns on your hull when you want a very specific cool looking design. Obviously then you want to use a lot of the little blocks too. But save the big stuff like long stretches of hull, whether it's metal or wood, for the big 4 block long blocks. Much better. And they actually add slightly better armor as well and work out better for taking hits from enemy weapons and fire. That's all for today. That's building ships. I hope it wasn't too long. Hope it helped. Cheers, Mr. Tristan.